All right, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a great vacation. This will be our first video of the new year. I'm sure you're groaning right now about that, but I'm sorry. Time to get back to work. All right, so I think we start off small. Quick little video just to explain where we're going, what we have to get done here. Right, so we're going to start on micro. And first thing we want to talk about with micro is production and cost. Right, we have to look at the production and cost of goods and services. Right. Now, before we go there, I need to emphasize how important this is. Right? Production and cost is like the foundation of a house. You have to have a solid foundation in the house before you can build a house. Right? We've heard that analogy before. So the cost of production is going to be the foundation we have, right? And then we'll build our house, which will be the rest of the course. Interesting African proverb. All right, it's been a while, okay? African proverb says, if you wish to move mountains tomorrow, you must start by lifting stones today. Right? So today we're going to start our stone lifting. So in order to do this, we're going to go to microeconomics, which I said is the house, right? So we have microeconomics, which is going to be, we're going to go, so the first 5 chapters very similar, right? We stopped off at elasticity, then we're going to talk about production, we're going to talk about cost, and then we're going to go into 4 factors, 4 market structures: monopolies, oligopolies, monopolistic, perfect competition. Those 4 market structures use the same production and cost for all 4. Right? So if you get down the basics now, the rest of this should be easy. We're going to have a test in 2 weeks. It's going to be just on micro. Right? So we'll go this a little slower, and hopefully we can get going. All right, so let's move on to the first pick. All right, you don't need to see me for this. All right, so we have the micro, we have economics. Let's look at variable inputs. So what you need to know is when we're producing, there are 2 types of inputs. There is a variable input, meaning it varies with the production, varies with output. If there's no output, there's no variable inputs. So you have variable inputs, and then you have fixed inputs, ones that we have whether we produce or not. Right? I know that might sound a little confusing, so let's go and do this. What we have is variable inputs. So if I own a pizza place, I have dough, workers, sauce, and cheese. If I produce 0 pizzas, I don't need any of those inputs. Right? But if I want to produce pizza, I'm going to need those inputs. Then we have our fixed inputs, which is our capital, our land. Right? So we have the pizza shop, and we have the oven. If I produce 0 pizza today, I'm still going to have the pizza shop, and I'm still going to have the oven. I'm still going to need them. If I produce 1,000 slices, it's still going to be the same pizza place, the same ovens, right? But the things that will change will be the variable inputs. So now that we got that, let's move on to the next thing that comes up. Next thing we're going to talk about is things called short run and the long run. Very important in economics is we're always talking about short run, long run. Right? So I see a hand up in the back that says, what's the difference between short run and long run? The main thing you want to focus on is, in the long run, all your inputs are variable. There are no fixed inputs in the long run, which means you can enter and exit an industry as often as you like. What does that mean? That means I've paid my mortgage off. I no longer owe any money to the bank on the storefront. So I can change. I can do anything different with it, okay? So long run means all my inputs are variable. Short run, so let's look at this. Short run, we have a fixed input. One of the inputs, usually capital, is fixed. That's short run, right? I have the cheese, the sauce, but I also have the oven. In the long run, the cheese, the sauce, the oven, and the store are all paid for. They're all variable, right? And like I said, it makes it easier for firms to enter and exit. But you probably want to circle that in your notes. That's the key as we go forward. We want to talk about entering and exiting these industries. Okay? So you have your inputs. Then we talk about short run and long run. Then we want to talk about the relationship, the short run production relationship. So the first thing we're going to look at is just producing. Right? I hire a worker to come into my pizza place. He makes 100 slices a day. That's my total product. Right? I hire a second worker Together, they get 250. So one worker gets me 100, two workers get me 250, which means the marginal product of my second worker was 150. Okay? It's the change in total production over the change in labor input. So in this case, the change in total production was 150. The change in labor input was 1. 150 over 1 gives you a marginal product of 150. Average product says take that and divide it. So take the total product divided by 2 units of labor, which means 250 divided by 2 is 125. So marginal product is 150, average product 125. All right, now let's look at this graphically. Now you have to understand there's going to be a lot of graphs in this section of economics. Okay, so we have up on top, we have our graph, right? So the top graph is going to be our total production graph. And you'll see it start to fill out, right? So the yellow part is when each worker I hire does better than the last worker. So I hired one worker, he got me 100. I hired a second worker, he got me 150. I hire a third worker, I get an extra 200 slices of pizza. But eventually, we're going to move from increasing returns to a term called diminishing returns, which means total product's still going up, but it's going up at a slower pace. So it means the fourth worker gets me 150, gets me less than the third worker, but he's still getting me slices, right? So that's where we would hit here. Where marginal product is starting to fall, total product is growing at a slower rate, right? An average product will eventually start to decline. Okay, so the green area is diminishing marginal returns. We're not saying we're not going to produce here, right? We're going to have to look at cost and different things like that, right? But this is, so you have the increasing returns and you have diminishing marginal returns. By the way, all of this is a short run phenomenon. Okay, diminishing returns only happens in the short run. And then the last area we have is our decreasing or our negative marginal returns. At negative marginal returns, we don't want to produce. So here's what it's saying is, we were making 7 units, right? What worker was this? All right, the 7th worker got me 30 units. The 8th worker would actually get me 29 units. Well, total, not marginal. So the total product of 7 workers is 30 units. If I hire an 8th worker, total product is going to be 29. Do I want, or should I ever hire an 8th worker? No, we're never going to hire in the negative marginal return area. Okay, so everything we talk about here is going to happen in the green and yellow area. So once marginal product goes under or crosses over the x-axis, we stop producing. All right, so that's returns. And we'll do a little exercise in class on Monday for this, and then we'll move on to cost. But I want you to understand a couple of things, real important. Diminishing marginal returns. Why does it happen? Because one of your inputs, usually capital, is fixed. So diminishing marginal returns only happens in the short run. Okay, so we want to remember diminishing marginal returns. We want to focus on short run, and we want to focus on long run. And long run, all my inputs are variables. That won't be the first time I say it the wrong way. Okay, all right. Have a good day, boys and girls.